Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RevOps Demos That Don't Suck. I am Matthew Volm, CEO and co-founder of RevOps Co-op. We have a global community of 11,000 plus folks who are all passionate about revenue operations. And also, as you can see from the background, are hosting our annual conference, RevOps AF, in beautiful, sunny San Diego this year. You can learn all about that stuff on our website, revopsaf.com and revopscoop.com. But that is not why we're here. We are here to do, like I said, a RevOps demo that does not suck. And I am with Brian Garvey, who is the VP of Sales Engineering and Alliances over at Prolifiq, which is an account planning / relationship kind of management tool for Salesforce and your CRM. And he has promised that he is going to deliver a RevOps demo that does not suck at all. So with that, Brian, I'll actually turn it over to you if you want to add anything to that kind of introduction personally, or tell us a little bit more about Prolifiq, and then I will start peppering you with questions.
Yeah, perfect. So great to meet everyone here and happy to walk everyone through the demonstration today. Really, the purpose of Prolifiq and why we came to market specifically was to help solve for a lot of the different issues that sales reps face and also revenue operations face as they're going in, to help add better structure, add additional insights into how the actual customers go to market today. So when you think about the typical sales process for a lot of different users, you have different cross-functional teams, and they're all using their own different tool sets, which are disparate from each other. Ultimately, that's leading to missed information, miscommunication, and collaboration across those teams, which is ultimately leading to issues with the sales process. So it causes things from increase in sales cycle times, you're missing information, you're having increase in churn for your current customers. And so what we wanted to do was to take what's typically those processes of opportunity and account planning and bring that into the single source of truth, which is Salesforce, to help consolidate all of those different motions to provide one singular view around your customer, the entire life cycle, so that teams can better collaborate, can control that to increase their sales cycle times, to increase their win rates associated with those, but to just provide better visibility across that entire customer journey itself. So I'm excited to walk the team through the tool today, and we'll get started when we get.
Yeah, awesome. And so before we kind of jump into to things that are specific to the solution, I always like to start with the problem space. So, folks who are watching this, who are kind of reading about this, right? Typically working in revenue operations. So what are some of those pain points, those challenges, those problems that folks are experiencing and living day to day, week to week, that work in revenue operations today, that don't necessarily need to exist or that are solved for by the Prolifiq tool? Like, what are some of those problems that they're living through right today that, like you said, you guys can make go away?
Yeah, so when you think about the sales process and how revenue operations' ultimate goal is to help streamline and provide better visibility across that entire process between all of your different cross-functional teams. When we think about those problems today, it really falls in line with how the account planning and opportunity planning process is generally done for most customers. Typically speaking, when you look at opportunity plans, they're disjointed from Salesforce, from your actual contacts, accounts, other information that you have within the system today. Teams are generally doing those in places like Excel, PowerPoint, to build out these robust plans. But generally speaking, those get used once, they're never used again. And it's a huge time-consuming effort for those, not only reps, but it's not providing the visibility across the team. Because then once that opportunity moves to sales stage close, you have this huge transitionary event where you're trying to move information from the pre-sales process over to the post-sales team, where they then may handle things along the lines of account growth, expansion within those, and even just retention of those customers as well. But it becomes an issue to where you have different data sets and you have silos of information associated with those different functional teams. And so what Prolifiq does is it helps take those different disparate motions and bring it into one singular place within Salesforce to allow any of those users, whether you're on the pre-sales team of an AE or account manager, or CS or partner teams, or even marketing and finance, visibility into all of the information that the sales reps are gathering throughout that sales process, making it easier for them to transition that information over to the post-sale team and really have everyone rally around a single source of truth around those customers so they can meet their specific objectives around it, whether it's growth goals, retention goals, whatever that may be.
Yeah, makes sense. The job of RevOps is to drive a lot of that alignment, and obviously it doesn't happen magically, although I'm sure we all wish it could with the snap of the fingers. And so, yeah, helping with that alignment when it comes to account planning and account ownership sounds great. So why don't you actually, if you can pull up kind of your screen and start to walk us through some of those main use cases. Love to see, obviously, now that you've laid out that problem space for everybody, is like, well, what does the product, the solution look like? How do people use it to actually solve for some of those problems that you mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will share my screen here and we'll walk through really a typical day for the end users themselves, but let me know once you can see the Salesforce home screen here.
Yep, we're good.
Perfect. So with Prolifiq, we're 100% native to Salesforce. And I think that's important to note because when you have a lot of other tools and systems, users are going into Salesforce to update contacts, opportunities, accounts. It's your single source of truth really around your entire customer lifecycle there. And what we didn't want to do is have reps have to copy and paste or pull data out of that platform. And so we built our tool 100% natively there. So we get to leverage all of that existing data that you have within your current instance. So the same way that users log in to access their opportunities or accounts on a day-by-day basis is going to be the same way that they're going to be able to go in and access their account plans. It also means that we get to take advantage of all of the same reportability and integrations that you have into the Salesforce platform as well. Now, when we think about the day-to-day for reps and users and how they actually access plans and manage their day-to-day, that's generally done through reports and dashboards. I'll show those here towards the end, where that'll be more of a consolidated view for not only the rep, how they're managing their territory of opportunities, or all of their current accounts, revenue operations, how they're getting insights into the win rates and how plans are affecting their overall business performance there as well. But generally speaking, whenever you're trying to access plans, you can do it in the same way you do anything else within the Salesforce platform. So the same way that you go into your accounts, contacts, opportunities, we have our account plans list view here where you can quickly get a snapshot of all of your currently recently viewed plans. You can flip these into different related lists where if I only want to see current strategic accounts, you can quickly get a snapshot of where you're at from a health or even a score perspective, which we'll touch on once we actually get into the plan itself. But you can also simply access these directly from the account record. So we have here is an account for Big Sky Worldwide. And what we're going to walk through today is really our account planning and master account plan objects themselves. Now, within this account here that we have for Big Sky Worldwide, we have our account plans, which is how you go in and build out specific templates for teams to ultimately align to. And so we understand that not every process is a cookie cutter approach to where how you want to manage the actual prospecting motion itself for reps in terms of the information you want them to gather is going to be different from how you may want them to manage the actual opportunity itself versus the account plan. Now, you can create separate templates within our plan to help guide and standardize that individual process for those teams. So how you want to go about your opportunity planning process, whether you're using Medic, Bant, Sandler, any methodology out there, we're agnostic. We can configure our tool to fit any of those. That's how you would go in and manage any of those things from the discovery, the qualification, the stakeholders that are involved in those specific processes. And that would then be your transitionary document over to an account plan, which then could be focused on growth and expansion. Now, you're not limited to these three types of plans. So if you did want to go in and build out specific industry plans, which are geared towards healthcare versus how you want to go to market for your financial services team, or even product or service or segment based as well, we can quickly go in and identify those because what you're doing from an enterprise level may be a little bit more detailed than what you want reps to ultimately go through and fill out for maybe a mid-market or commercial account plan that teams are ultimately filling out today. Now, for today's purposes, I think we're going to dive into more so the account plan. This is more so the end-to-end of how you can manage current customers. And then if we want to, at the end, we can start to touch on a little bit more around the opportunity plans, how that filters in, and some of the other elements of the tool as well. Any questions?
So you said the opportunity plan and the prospecting plans, are these ones that are like, do they come pre-configured like this and I can kind of select, or do we work with would we work with your team to get those set up?
Yeah, so out of the box, we have our account plan, which is our default template that comes with the tool. And then you would work with our team along with any other consultants that would be a part of the implementation process to go in and build out additional templates based on how you want to go to market with other processes. So typically speaking, most of our customers do start with opportunity and account plans just because it's a logical transition there for how you manage the new business or add-on opportunities and how all of that information would then transition over to post-sale teams and how they manage it from an account plan perspective.
And then are there outside of the, we got account opportunity and prospecting plans, are there any other yeah, like you mentioned being able to, do these specific to kind of each particular client. Can you provide any other examples of things that people have kind of created here and so they have like plans around?
Yeah, so we very commonly see customers go in and even tier out account plans. So you'll have strategic account plans, which will obviously have a little bit more information that they're trying to gather because those deals are obviously larger. You want to put a little bit more effort into how we're tracking kind of the priorities tied to those, other information that we want to track within those. That's a very common use case to where they'll break it out by segment of business versus just kind of the process that we're going through as well. There's also product specific plans. So we have certain customers that they have different product teams and how they go to market for those, and they want to have separate go to market plans for each one of those teams because the information that we're trying to track for, let's say, a healthcare for a specific MRI or different tool that they're trying to sell into a doctor's office is going to be different than how they're trying to sell any type of medication to a pharmacy or other elements there as well.
Cool. Yeah, I love the granularity there. Makes sense.
Awesome. So I'll jump into an account plan here, and then we can start to talk through some of the different elements that we have and how teams ultimately leverage these to build out and standardize some of those different processes and use it to collaborate internally. So right when I get into Big Sky Worldwide here, what you'll notice is first things first is that the look and feel of this is very much like Salesforce. It's as configurable as Salesforce. So the same way that you make changes to anything within the tool today, through the object manager is the same way we can make changes here. So if you want to adjust anything from the layout of these, the tab sections, what's going to be important to those teams on this specific template, we can quickly go in and do that. We also have related lists at the top, which is the different elements or objects that we have associated with the tool. So you have things like team members. This is who can make edit changes or view plans. So you have structured into controlling the permission or access of anything. So if you did want to provide other users access or team members, and limit their role access, whether they can edit those or just view them. We can quickly go in and do that there as well. And then we get into more so scoring and integration areas. This is where teams can start to define a score in terms of what good looks like. This is completely configurable, but it helps teams define not only how teams are building out plans initially, but also how they're going back to maintain and meet their goals that they've set forth in terms of what good looks like. And so our score out of the box is based on different elements that we have associated with any one of our account plans. So you'll see things like objectives, SWOT analysis, key stakeholders. We have different components here which can feed up into that specific score. So things like our relationship mapping component. This is how we define what our key stakeholder score is. So maybe it's based off of, hey, have you identified 5 to 10 contacts at this account? You're going to get 5 points. Have you identified the economic buyer? You're going to get another 5 points. Do you have a champion, or what's your support or influence ratio there within this? That can start to affect your overarching score within these, but you can also set time decay against that, just meaning that, hey, you have added 15 contacts to this relationship map, but you have no activity against those users over the last 30 days. And that can start to spur different actions for users and reduce scores so that you can get a quick snapshot of the health of this account and how teams are going back to maintain plans over time, which previously, if you're doing this in Excel or PowerPoint, you have no visibility into. It also provides that visibility for any users that are within Salesforce who want to have access to that data as well today by doing it here within the platform. We
Yeah.
also have, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, so like, see, like all this stuff looks great, right? And I think like the the logic behind it all makes complete sense in terms of I think we've all been like in a pre-prolific world. I think we've all been a part of like, oh, these are very much our like these are like you said, these are our account plans. This is what we should be doing as we sell. And I know in my prior in my prior life, a lot of this stuff existed maybe on a Confluence page or a Google Doc, but there was never any like to the extent that we ever tried to document it, it was still like in a static place, like you said, Google Doc, some sort of spreadsheet, maybe a PowerPoint. And so is that what you're seeing a lot of like from a lot of your like your customers that are coming to you? Like is that the world that they're living in today? Is like if it's being done at all, it's being done in these kind of static documents that are separate from the CRM and very manual and time intensive, or like what does the pre-prolific world look like? Because like I said, all the stuff on the screen looks great. But I certainly know I've never had anything that great before.
Yeah, and that's typically the issues that come up today is that when we do have customers, whether you're trying to implement a new process to help your team scale, this works out very well because there isn't a predefined kind of process that teams are following. But also for teams that already have a process in place today for account planning, a lot of that comes down to where they're doing it and the issues that that ultimately causes. So when you think about doing account planning or even opportunity planning in places like Google Docs or even Excel, it provides a myriad of issues because one, the data is stagnant. It's updated generally on a quarterly basis for some of those individual plans, but it's not consistent with other data sources where you're forced to generally be updated on a day-by-day basis. So when I go into Salesforce, I update a title for a contact, I update opportunity values or any other information tied to that, that doesn't feed back to my document. It causes me as a rep a lot of effort and information to go in, copy that, update that document to really only present it to potentially leadership once and then never really be looked at again. It's not something that's a living, breathing document that's helping me truly sell the deal or helping me collaborate with other team members because maybe they don't have visibility into it. And so by bringing that entire process into Salesforce, you give visibility to all the users that have licenses into your platform today. It also helps from the build out and the maintenance of those plans because we leverage the underlying data to help facilitate the initial build out. So your contacts that are within Salesforce, as those get updated, as opportunities get updated, as anything else within the platform gets updated, that will then filter into our tool as well, and then vice versa. So as you make changes to our tool in real time, that updates any of those underlying records that you have within the platform. And so you don't have two different silos of data in that sense, where you have teams working out of Excel and PowerPoint here, and then you may have customer success teams working out of Gainsight or Salesforce, or all of these other different disparate locations. Now you have them all rallying around one single source of truth within that account or that plan or that opportunity within Salesforce.
Yeah, very cool.
Awesome. Now, outside of kind of the scoring elements here, which you can obviously configure to fit any other categories that we want based on the information, we also have a few other integrations that are very common with our customers. We do integrate to most tools that do integrate into Salesforce itself. So other teams are using things like a Zoom Info for a contact BI tool to where you can bring in, import contacts directly from here. Those can import directly into our relationship map, where they use Tableau for more of those reporting dashboards. We also have Gong integrations to where you can see all conversation history that can feed into the tool as well based on how conversations are logged, information that can start to fill out information within the plan as well. And then we also have integrations into Slack, which allow you to connect plans to individual channels, post notifications, and really use that as a source of truth for teams to start to collaborate and message back and forth around upcoming action items within those plans as well. Now, outside of the integrations, when we think about the planning process, it really follows four main areas for most customers. You have on the left side here, it's the overview. This is really the customer profile, the background. These are where you want to start to add structured questions that you want every rep or team to ultimately facilitate as they're going through the process itself. Then you get into the relationship mapping components, which start to help facilitate more so the actual build out of who you know, who you don't know, who's supporting us across these different deals or accounts, what are their roles, responsibilities, and who are we trying to target to grow our relationship or foothold within this specific pursuit. Then we're going to get into cross-sell, which is really where you can start to define white space. So where have you sold into? What's our share of wallet today? Where are there areas for growth and expansion across this account? And where are we starting to define our objectives moving forward, which is where we get into strategy, which really wraps up everything from the what are we doing, who are we engaged with, where can we sell into, defining our goals and objectives moving forward, and how we're going to go in and attack those. Now, just to start off from an overview perspective, this first area, it's by design. It's open, rich text areas for teams. The purpose behind that is ultimately because we heard from teams that, hey, I don't have a field in Salesforce or a place to put information. Users can go in and create as many open sections as they want as they facilitate these plans. So whether you wanted to bring in information from websites, PowerPoint slides, you can copy and paste all of that information here. You can still standardize any questions or information that you also want teams to follow. So when we think about it from an account plan perspective, it's what is our goal for this account for the upcoming year? Are we trying to grow it, expand it? Do we want to save it? From a revenue standpoint, what's basic information around that customer that's going to be valuable for anyone who's accessing this plan? Do we want to provide quick summaries for leadership? If it is a annual report or custom company, we can go in and bring in any of this annual report financial information from some of those different public organizations. And if you want to go in and standardize some of these questions, these are going to vary based on the template of the plan. So the questions that we ask here are going to be different from what we ask from more of an opportunity plan, which could be more of those Medic, Bant, Sandler type questions, which are more deal specific and pursuit there as well. Now, when we think about the overarching relationships that we get into, this starts to allow teams to leverage those Salesforce contacts to truly build out these dynamic maps and understand really who they know, who they don't know, and take what was a stagnant list of contacts and start to visualize it in a new way to help teams start to strategize against anyone that they're trying to target within these accounts. Now, our relationship maps here leverage your Salesforce contact, and it's extremely simple and easy for teams to start to build out. All you need to do is click the member button up here at the top right. This will bring up a list of all of your current contacts that you have on this account or across Salesforce that you wanted to ultimately bring in. So whether you're working with partners, consultants, other users, all you need to do is simply drag and drop contacts. And what this will do is start to build out those reporting relationships here in real time. Now, if you don't have contacts, you can build things like placeholders or create new contacts directly from the map. But you can also bring in your internal user team to understand how you're leveraging your internal team and what relationships they have into these specific pursuits. Now, after you bring contacts onto our relationship map, this is really where teams start to treat this a little bit more like a plan. They start to add in additional insights to these specific users. So for example, we dragged Alice Patel onto this map. Well, now we want to start to define different attributes such as what's her level of influence and support. You'll notice that we have a couple of different color schemes here on the map for supporters, blockers, champions. This is all done through our influence chart below. This is completely configurable from the categories and the labels that we have here. But for example, we brought Alice Patel onto the map. We now want to say that she's a blocker and of high influence because maybe she's blocking us from an MSA or renewal standpoint in terms of our agreement. We can define that down here. The benefit here is that now that this information is being tracked here within Salesforce, all other teams can start to leverage that. So whether you're in a marketing team and you want to leverage some of the information that we've defined from the profile section, or maybe you want to run campaigns and add stakeholders that are blockers and of high influence, or all of our champions across all of our plans to different campaigns across this org, you can start to do that. And that will start to get teams and help them visualize kind of who they know, who they don't know across any organization, and then start to add in anything else that'll be valuable for other team members as well. So as you'll notice, Alice Patel here is now a blocker of our solution, and we can start to add in a few other attributes if we'd like to. So things like badges, which allow teams to define roles, responsibilities. So whether she's part of the buyer group, and maybe we'll say that she's part of the legal team. We have a library that you can pick and choose from and relabel depending on what you want to ultimately define for different user groups and teams there. And then other types of indirect relationships, which are really valuable. So whether it's from your internal team and who has alignment to who, or maybe we just want to define the buying path across this org. You can quickly go in and define different indirect lines. So maybe the deal starts with Walt Miller, goes up to Ricky Johnson for decision, over to Mike Wilson for budget, and then we'll say it's going to go over to Alice Patel here for legal approval before it ultimately goes up to Sandra Smith for signature across that deal in pursuit. Now, the benefit here is that all this information is going to be searchable, not only from the map. So if you did want to see who's part of the buyer group, you can search any of that from our maps themselves. It'll highlight there, but you're also building out your own internal knowledge base as teams build these out specifically. And so whenever you click into contacts, you're going to get more of this omni view around how that team contact is used, whether it's used by different teams, different product organizations, or even marketing teams as well, and how they want to define its influence and support. So whenever I click into users, I'll see things like last activity, basic information around their influence and support on this specific map. You'll see contact details, but you'll also see if this user's on any other relationship map or plan for our organization. So has Sandra Smith a champion on this map, but on a previous opportunity, she was a blocker of us and high influence for that specific pursuit. Or maybe a different team or product team wants to define her in a different way for their specific pursuit as well. We have the flexibility to go in and define any of those or keep it global across the organization. You'll also be able to see roll up information from all of the other data points that we just talked about. So who has indirect relationships with Sandra Smith? Who can I leverage? Whether it's Eddie Hansen, who's supposed to have executive alignment to that user, or someone else had identified that Mike Wilson is best friends with Sandra Smith. It'll also roll up other Salesforce data too, such as opportunities, tasks, and activity history and campaigns that they've responded back to as well. So you can start to see how they're engaging with other marketing content, what they're doing on that side of the house as well, along with any other opportunities that they're ultimately tied to as well. But I'll just pause here really quick to see if there's any questions from you, Matt, on the relationship mapping piece or anything that you'd like to talk through.
No, I mean, this is awesome. I see, because again, I think, for everyone who has been in a selling seat before, or obviously like any of the folks in RevOps, right? Like this is these are all the things you're trying to enable your like your sales team to do, and the like especially the I guess my mind immediately went to two places, which is one, if you're like a frontline manager or a VP of sales and you want to understand like, hey, are my salespeople operating consistently? Are they doing the things that they should be when it comes to selling? This gives you like such an easy way to answer that. Like, hey, we have these standard plans, these standard ways of going to market, rather than having to like interview your salespeople under oath for hours and like threaten them. Like you just get like you don't need to do that. You can go, you can look, you can easily see what's been done and what hasn't been done. But then I think maybe like more importantly is there's obviously all these things that you collect, all these pieces of information that you collect during the sales process that are really important to everyone on the post-sale side. And there's really no good way outside of like a knowledge transfer for those people to typically understand, oh, who was all involved in the deal, who liked it, who didn't like it, who was on board, who's not on board, why was it important to them. And so instead of having again to do, like some, manual Google document with a 30-minute or 60-minute meeting, the all the other teams who aren't involved in the sales process at all now have a really easy way to go in and see how did this deal get done, who was all involved, and how can I use that information to make sure I deliver the best post sales experience possible.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a huge time saver because it helps eliminate a lot of story time and a lot of those meetings that you have to have, which is generally just describing what would be ultimately within the plan itself. And it's helped us specifically internally. We launched opportunity plans a little over 2 years ago. And now when we go to opportunities and deals, I'm able to just jump into any opportunity plan that we have, see the challenges, the problems that they're trying to solve for, competition that we're going up against. I don't have to have a one-on-one call with all of these reps prior to these meetings because all of that information is living and breathing within that document. I can see
Yep.
in a real-time aspect of where there's gaps, where they haven't filled out information, what they don't know, and start to strategize with them around what we can start to figure out within those calls and come up with a game plan that way and really use the time a little bit more efficiently, especially from a manager standpoint. You're not having to spend all that time kind of going through the back end story. You can simply go through, review those plans, and then start to offer strategy and coaching in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Perfect. Now, after we talk through really just the relationship map and who we know and who we don't know here, the next area that teams really start to focus on is cross-sell. So when we think about account plans, one of the biggest areas for teams is how do we start to grow or expand our foothold within this customer across different products, services. And we have our component here, which is our cross-sell maps. Now, what this allows teams to do is it allows you to build out templates to leverage Salesforce data that you already have within the platform today. So for example, what we're doing here within this template is we want to help teams visualize across not only Big Sky Worldwide, which is our parent account that we're currently at today, but also any of its different child subsidiary accounts where we have closed won opportunities, open opportunities, competitors across our different products and services, which we're displaying across the top here. These are things that are associated to things like opportunities. We have flexibility to leverage these with other objects. If teams are using custom objects outside of opportunities or products, we can leverage other things that you have within the Salesforce platform. But this allows them to quickly go in and start to strategize around, all right, well, where have we sold in? So I can quickly go in and see, well, we have current spend within this account of $466,000. The majority of that is sitting here within our Americas team for $340K. I can click into any one of these cells and see the underlying opportunity data that's being tied to it. So if I wanted to go in and edit any opportunities, make changes to that, or if opportunities change in real time from a dollar value perspective, dates or closing, that's going to automatically update this template for you and other teams. So that way you don't have to rely on reps to go in and take the newest opportunities that have closed and kind of update a specific matrix in terms of what we've closed, what we haven't closed, or what we're currently engaged with from maybe post-sale teams or other elements or other teams that they're going after here. So this quickly allows teams to go in, not only see current spend, open opportunities that you may have, but also any other custom data there as well. So very commonly, we'll see customers go in and start to define other elements, which we have here, which is things like addressable market. Now, this is really important for a lot of customers because they want to understand, okay, well, we have sold in $340,000 here today within the Americas team, but they have a potential upside for our crush product of $500,000. And we want to be able to input that so that way we can start to run a total addressable market on the back end to see which accounts for our team have the biggest areas for growth or expansion or propensity to buy our products and services. So we should start to focus our time and efforts on those areas, which are going to make the most bang for our buck in terms of growing our revenue, expanding those revenues across different products and services there as well. And so that way you can start to stack rank customers or even accounts on the back end in terms of where those are at, where are we at from our objectives and going in and capturing that growth? Do we have open opportunities tied to it? Or maybe where we potentially have competitors and where we want to start to define those there as well. Now, within each one of these specific charts that we have for cross-sell, you will get some different row and column summaries, which will help you visualize any of that data across the different products and services, or even accounts that we have as a whole, but really allow teams to start to filter that data too, to where if I don't want to see specific product lines or even accounts, it'll recalculate our totals that we have at the top so that I can get a better view or sense of where we're sold into and where our strategy lies across this specific account.
That's awesome.
Any questions?
No, I think this makes total sense. And yeah, again, like after you move on from the like, hey, how do we get this deal kind of closed? And you're looking at where you might have opportunities for upsell. Again, this is the sort of stuff that typically you would manually put into some sort of spreadsheet and try to operate separately and manually update, and having it all at a couple of clicks makes it super easy.
Yep, that's absolutely right. And one of the other elements of this too is that you can start to define other things like objectives directly from this map. And that's where we're really going to fall into the strategy element. So really after teams have defined what are we doing here from the customer profile, who we're engaged with, where we've sold into today, and where we're starting to have open opportunities or growth perspective there, we can start to define what's our actually overarching goal and strategy for this account. This is where things start to fall in line in terms of things like objectives, the overarching opportunities that you have within the account. Now, objectives allow teams to define our internal goals or even external goals with the customer as well. So whether I want to expand into a different business unit or function at that account, whether I want to renew a specific product line, this allows me to define our overarching goals, but then also define individual tasks and treat this a little bit more like a project across different team members. So whether I wanted to go in and assign tasks to our VP of sales to do outreach, or a legal team to review different documents, or other elements here, it allows me to truly manage this entire account, the project, and all the different team members associated with it, with their specific actions that they're trying to go after. And then also understand how we're progressing against any one of those. And so if the VP of sales was to go in and actually do the alignment with their team, we can go in and mark that as complete, and that will start to update your progress across this specific objective here. But you'll also be able to track that across your objectives across all your account plans. So you can see how teams are progressing within their goals and how those are achieved within those plans, and any dollar values also tied to those too. So we can start to understand really the impact that these plans are having on our business and our customers as well, and the retention there.
Yeah.
You'll also have, oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, because again, a lot, with any sort of plan, I mean, we talked about it, right? And we saw, I guess, some of the output before, but obviously, like, every plan requires execution, right? Activities that need to get done to accomplish the things that you want to. So yeah, having the ability to actually track the things that are getting done and assign some of those things out is great.
We have a few other elements too within strategy that help teams kind of visualize some of the data that they have. We have our own opportunity list view, which is a little bit different than Salesforce. The only difference here is that we'll automatically bring in all opportunities from the parent-child hierarchy there, so you have visibility into those. So whether you're working at a sub account or you're a global account director and you want to see kind of all the different ops that teams are currently working on, you can visualize all of those directly from here, pre-filter these lists to see just closed won opportunities that teams have or all opportunities, and be able to filter that too directly from the list view. We also have other elements here which can help teams, whether you want to get more detailed with the strategy itself. And this is where it starts to go in line of how detailed do we want these templates to be? So is this a global account or is this an enterprise account level where we want to actually track things like let's say, a mutual action plan. So what are the key dates upcoming? Do we have renewals outstanding? These will send renewals or notifications for team members that are on the plan just to keep everyone informed. You have other elements where you can bring in things like account strategies or customer KPIs within this. So you can start to track whether you have current quantitative or qualitative metrics that the team is trying to go against and how we're progressing against those. Any internal factors that that customer has, if you want to get pretty granular within those as well. And then we can always bring in other insights, which is based on the plan too. So any breakdown of the information from here, we can bring in any of those report charts and insights associated with them. Now, those are the main elements really of our account planning tool itself. Now, these vary really based on what information is going to be beneficial for the individual opportunity plans specifically, which may be linked to individual plans. But we also have the concept here of master account plans. Now, master account plans are beneficial because it takes any of the plans that you have at this parent-child relationship and starts to roll them up into a singular view. So whether you have multiple plans open for different opportunities or different subsidiary accounts, and you're as a global account director and you want to understand what are our objectives associated with those, what are the relationships that we have tied to them as well, you can create your own version of a master account plan, which will show you how those plans are progressing on a week-by-week basis based on the scores that you have. So you're trending upwards with any one of those individual plans, or you trending down. It'll allow you to really consolidate that view so that I can see across all of those plans, what are our objectives, what's outstanding within those, and then also be able to quickly swap between different things like relationship maps and the stakeholders involved in those. So if we wanted to quickly go in and see who was a part of our full year 23 plan that we were engaged with, that we just walked through, or maybe who do we know within the Americas team or on a specific opportunity and who do we not know? You can quickly swap between any of those different maps or plans that teams are currently engaged with and allow users to truly treat this like a project and understand kind of who they know, who they don't know, and manage a global team of reps or users that are ultimately going after an individual account. Any questions there just on master account plans?
No, that's awesome. I love seeing again, like the roll up of kind of performance across like performance at that object level, right? Being able to just like see what's going on. So, again, if you have a plan that everyone might be following, but maybe it's not the most effective, right? Having the ability to tweak that and to know that in real time is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And so these plans too, I think it's important to note that all of the information within those rolls up into reports and dashboards that we have pre-built out for teams, specifically around the end users themselves, operations folks from more of the admin adoption focus there as well, and then also managers in terms of how they're managing their entire team, or even leadership in terms of what those goals are as they're tracking against accounts. And so I'll quickly go through a couple of different dashboards that we have specifically geared towards those different user groups, and kind of walk the team through kind of how teams can start to visualize those and consolidate a lot of that information, which you wouldn't get out of a Google Doc or an Excel sheet today. One of those specifically is a dashboard that we have here, which is a little bit more specific to opportunities. And so this can be used by a manager or the rep themselves. What this does is it simply rolls up your current month ACV, your pipeline coverage, and then out of that pipeline, what's at risk out of that over the next 30 days that's supposed to close? Well, we can define at risk based on any of the elements that we just went through within the plan. So maybe it's based off of the discovery questions that teams haven't identified. So if you're using Medic today, you haven't identified the pain within this customer. That's a potential at-risk deal if it's supposed to close in the next 30 days. Or maybe within the relationship map component, you have no engagement with a C-suite member or a VP title or above. So you're not aligned to power within those deals. Maybe you're single threaded within the contacts that you're engaged with. These can start to spur different deals, accounts, or opportunities into these related lists so that you can quickly get a snapshot of kind of what deals are potentially at risk or why are they at risk from an overarching coaching perspective. You'll also roll up other data points that we went through, such as key dates, objectives, and tasks associated with all of those plans, and also a little bit more trending information here as well, such as how was the number of contacts in a specific deal or opportunity plan or account impacting your win rate or your renewal rate. So when you are multi-threaded across those plans, how does that impact your renewal rate? How does the titles and personas within those as well impact your success rate? So when you do have a champion that is in the C-suite level or the VP, how does that impact your overall success there? Also, how are teams just simply filling out or building out plans month over month? So are they going in and identifying new contacts within those specific plans? Are they staying single threaded with their current contacts that they're engaged with today? How are you trending from a support level? Are you getting more people that are supporters and champions across your organization, or more people that are trending into blockers within these specific opportunities, pursuits, or even accounts as well? And you can break that down on a plan by plan basis, or also support teams with other reports such as give me the list of all of our current champions across our accounts that have no activity over the last 30 days. So you can start to do outreach or add those users to specific campaigns and take actions against those. This is really kind of one example that we have for more so the end users themselves as they manage opportunities. We also have very similar dashboards as we get into more of the account plan itself and the performance. So you can see across all the plans for your current accounts, what your revenue goal for those are specifically, what's our current actual revenue that we've brought in today, what's our percentage revenue to goal, what do we have from a pipeline perspective within those accounts as well? So do we even have the pipeline to support our goal that we've gone in and identified? Or do we need to go in and swap these accounts out for other elements or go in and identify new opportunities within these pursuits for different business units or products or service lines that teams are tracking today? You'll also be able to see things like the breakdown of the total addressable market across accounts. So I can quickly see that Big Sky Americas does have the largest area for growth and expansion here comparatively to what we have from a current spend perspective. What does that breakdown look like on an account by account basis based on competitive spends, current opportunities, or even what the addressable market is within those specific accounts? And then we also have dashboards, which are a little bit more geared towards the operations folks and how the plans are actually impacting their business. And I think this is really where RevOps are going to start to shine in terms of how do the plans impact not only the structure, the standardized process, but how does it impact our revenue that we have across customers? And I'll quickly go in and show a dashboard that we have here, which is a little bit more geared towards that specific pursuit. So this takes information and shows how teams are building out plans by different type on a yearly or quarterly basis. How are those plans and what is the win rate that we have previously? What's the win rate by rep based on those individual plans? But more importantly, how are opportunities that have plans impacted by ultimately just creating the plan, creating that structure, doing it all within Salesforce and providing that visibility? You can quickly go in and see that our current win rate across the team is 25.6%. But when you do have opportunities that have a plan, that win rate jumps up to 48%. So you get almost a 23% increase in your win rate just by creating the plan and providing that visibility to the different team members and providing that structure across some of those different plans. And that's pretty consistent with how we see teams ultimately leverage these tools and some of those ROI that we can see. We can generally see anywhere between a 10 to 25% increase in some of those win rates just by providing that structure and visibility across the different teams so that everyone can rally around the different strategies that we have associated with those. You can also see different elements in terms of the wins that you have associated with those plans, revenue breakdown, but also how do the plans impact your sales cycle time? So we have here is what was the sales cycle time in a previous year, which was generally 93 days. And then what was it in 2022 when we actually launched Opportunity Plan specifically? We were able to decrease our sales cycle time by just about 20 days just by launching the plans because everyone was aligned around those next steps. And we were able to strategize around who we should be reaching out to and who we should be strategizing and aligning with from that deal and pursuit perspective. And so you can measure a lot of those impacts of the plan and quantifiably through different ROI metrics, whether it's churn rates, customer success rates, increased win rates, sales cycle times, or even ARR across your customers and how you're growing and expanding those different relationships.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, super valuable to have the comparison. Again, we just talked about how useful it is to understand the effectiveness of the things that you put down, and just being able to iterate on those and see the outcomes of them is great. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's really Crush as a whole. I'd like to open up if you have any other questions that we want to talk through.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess first question is so obviously we went through we're looking within Salesforce, and you mentioned again with some common integrations that you have outside of Salesforce, like Gong, ZoomInfo, some of those others. Naturally, like other CRMs that you integrate with. Do you integrate with other CRMs? Mostly asking about HubSpot or Dynamics, and then any other integrations that are popular that you didn't talk about today?
Yeah, so we are a 100% Salesforce native shop. We only work with Salesforce customers within that ecosystem. Now, other integrations that you would see as things that ultimately integrate to Salesforce. So if you have tools or systems that are integrating to the platform itself, the CRM for Salesforce, and it's writing objects, we can generally leverage any of that information within our tool. So whether you have other things like Jira, which is creating cases, or other elements like Gainsight, another popular one for CS teams where they may leverage that, you can bring all of those data points into Salesforce, and we can start to leverage those within the plan itself to help build out, maintain those, and provide that cross-functional use case.
Awesome. And so Salesforce users or Salesforce shops, and we talked, I guess, on the in terms of customers that are a good fit. So obviously you need to be using Salesforce. That's one. But are there any other, like, if I'm in RevOps today watching this, like any certain types of customers, either like company characteristics or account characteristics, that are like better fits for the Prolifiq platform than others?
Yeah, I'd say our typical go-to-market customer is someone who works in the B2B space. We don't generally sell to B2C customers themselves typically, but if you are in the B2B space within Salesforce today, we work with customers across all different industries, whether it's financial services, health tech, medical device, anything in between. We help support those. Now, ultimately, the key caveat there is what does that sales cycle ultimately look like? And is it worth it for teams to ultimately go through that planning process? And is it worth the squeeze? So if you're doing high volume, low dollar amount transactions from a B2B perspective, it's not going to really make a whole lot of sense to make your reps go through a whole planning process for that specific deal if it's closing within 5 to 10 days. Now, generally speaking, for our customers, if they have a little bit of a typically longer sales cycle time, which is over a month, and those deal sizes start to get above that 25K range, that's generally where we start to see teams start to build out those individual plans and customers for those as well, because they have areas for growth and expansion. Additionally, if you have multiple product SKUs at your organization, that's really where those account plans are starting to come into focus, to where if you can cross-sell or upsell across any one of those different teams, business units, or child subsidiary accounts to help them growth.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And so when it comes to implementation, I know you talked a little bit about stuff coming out of the box. You talked a little bit about being able to configure some things, very much dependent on the customer's needs. What does a implementation look like for Prolifiq? How long does it take for people to typically kind of get access and start using the solution?
Yeah, so I'll touch on it in kind of two different aspects. So we do sell one of the components that we went through today, which was relationship mapping. That we do sell as a standalone component, which you can place on opportunities, accounts, and not have whole plans built out tied to it. We generally see that as a good starting point for a lot of customers that may be new to the account planning process. That's a very quick implementation time. We do have areas on the App Exchange for Salesforce where you can sign up for free trials for those, but that's generally about a 1 hour implementation. We are a managed package within Salesforce, so it downloads in about 15 minutes. And then we're simply adding it to the different pages and layouts and turning on some certain features within that. And that typically gets done in about a 1 hour session with any admin team for your Salesforce admins or even leadership there as well. Now, when we start to think about Crush, that might get pushed out a little bit based on the number of templates that we ultimately want teams to build out, what we're aligning to, and what does that phased approach look like. I wouldn't say that every customer is going to go in and build out what I showed you here today. They may do it in more of that phased approach where, hey, we're going to start with our customer profile, the relationship map, and then maybe the objective component. And then 30 days later, they may launch another component tied to that as well, which may be cross-sell and start to focus on other elements over time. Our typical deployment for Crush specifically is around 2 weeks for an individual template. It still downloads in about 5 to 10 minutes, and you can use it out of the box today. But a lot of teams will start to add in configurations based on the methodology that they want to follow, processes, and maybe additional templates tied to that. Now, within that implementation process, there's a couple of routes that teams can take. We do have a slew of different SI partners that will help support any of those implementations, which have pre-packaged hours that you can go in and purchase for any one of those. But you will also have our CS team supporting you throughout that entire process. So as part of the implementation, you'll have our team, which is going to walk you through the actual install of the tool, technical onboarding. You'll have a business onboarding call where we review everything that we discussed through the sales process, configurations and suggestions that we might want to make based on your current process today. And then we're there for all the training that happens throughout the tool. So whether you want to take a train the trainer approach or you want us to handle the training themselves with the end users, we're happy to do that as well.
Yeah, that's great. And then next question is around, call it ROI. So, return on investment has kind of two ends of the two elements of the equation, right? So the first is value kind of delivered, and then the other is investment or pricing. So I guess first side of that question is, where do folks typically see the most value from a prolific tool? Is it increased win rates, deal sizes, elimination of manual effort, stuff like that? And then second part of the question is what on the investment side is like, what can you share around pricing, either like what you charge, how can folks look at the investment side of the equation?
Yeah. So when we think about value that the tool brings, there's going to be an initial value which is hard to quantify in terms of just the efficiency that you get from the tool and bringing the cross-functional teams together into one place. But you can start to quantify value in terms of win rates, which is a very common one. So how does the tool, if we are leveraging it on opportunities, increase our win rates there? How does it decrease our sales cycle times associated with those as well? In terms of, is this creating a structured process that's repeatable and also helping us close deals quicker and faster? There's also the element there from the post-sale side of things where teams start to focus on more so churn rates. So how are we controlling leakage for customers? How are we controlling churn that have plans? And also, how are we growing ARR across those customers? So are we going in, upselling and cross-selling across different products? Are those aligned to objectives that we've set forth? And is that measurable within the system, which we can obviously do through reports and dashboards, which we can show on a typical basis when you are building out plans and objectives. These are the ones that are more successful in your win rate for any objective and the growth that's tied to that.
Yeah, yeah, no, it makes sense. We saw some of that stuff before, right? Like, if you were closing 2 out of 10 deals before you implemented structure around your account planning process, then you implement Prolifiq. Let's say you're now closing 3 out of 10 deals, right? Pretty easy to do the math to see like, oh wow, like that increase in win rate has generated us X dollars of revenue.
Yep.
This, and then yeah, on the pricing side, what can you share? What can you share there?
Yeah, so you can go to our app exchange and we have our list price for both products on there. So for Relationship Map, it starts at $19 per user per month. And then for Crush, the full end-to-end suite, which what I walked through today, that also is $49 per user per month. Now, those are obviously going to go down based on the number of users, timing, and scope of those specific projects. So as you have more users, that'll become more economical for teams to ultimately go in. That price will decrease along with if you wanted to do 12, 24, 36-month agreements with us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then last, I guess last question, or maybe last two questions that I have for you is first is, what's the one thing that you would say differentiates Prolifiq from any of the competitive products that are out there? And then the last thing after that would be, how can folks get in touch or try things themselves? I know you mentioned maybe being able to do a free trial of something on the
Mhm.
app exchange, but how can folks get started or kind of get their own kind of bite at the apple, if you will?
Yeah, so when we think about kind of the overall process there, so the thing that differentiates us across our different competitors really falls in line with kind of two different elements. It's one, the nativity to Salesforce. So a lot of other tools will either claim to be native to Salesforce, but they're built and they have different APIs which pull data in and out of the platform. That causes issues with sync and setup time from a configuration standpoint. But the second one that's probably the most important is we are methodology agnostic. We don't subscribe to any specific methodology. A lot of other tools will try to force a specific process for you to follow. So if that changes over time, or if you want different teams or different user groups to ultimately facilitate a different process, we can facilitate within our tool because we really built it as more so component based, which we can leverage in different ways based on those different templates. We don't want you to have to solely be focused on medic. Maybe you want to do a combination of both medic and ban that different sales teams have, or over time, maybe you want to switch methodologies. You don't have to rip and replace tools because we're only built for that one specific process itself. Our tools can kind of span that entire life cycle for the tool, and based on however you want to go to market, we can help align our solution to that.
That's
Now,
great.
when we think about how teams can ultimately get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us on the App Exchange. For Relationship Map, you can go in, you can sign up for free trials. We do have those for any of that standalone product itself. You can sign up for a 30-day free trial for those customers. We also have Crush, which you can get in touch with us, whether it's via our website, prolifiq.ai, or through the Salesforce App Exchange itself, where you can start to submit demo requests or feature requests where you can get in touch with a sales rep and start to walk you through, describe your current process, and we can offer some suggestions and best practices in terms of how we can move forward.
Yeah, that's great. All right, my friend. Well, that was one product looks awesome. I can totally see how in my past life on the RevOps side it would have been very useful to have. You would have saved me tons of pain and manual effort and like a whole slew of Google Docs having to be created. So yeah, I see the value. And I also see like how the value can get realized super quickly for anyone who's looking to just provide some more structure around account planning. So thank you for the walkthrough. Thank you for being a wealth of kind of information. And you heard it, folks. If you're interested, prolifiq.ai, that's prolific with a Q. And yeah, definitely hit them up either on their website or you can find them in the community. But with that, Brian, I will let you go. So thank you, my friend, again for the walkthrough, and thank you for sharing more on Prolifiq with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much.